Hello, and we are back. Um, so hopefully everyone from the other stream will make it over. Um, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. My name is Lowell Dillon, and I am here to talk to Adam Finkelstein about his new book, Up and Adam, A Patient's Experience on Winning with IBD. And it's a very exciting book with a lot of colorful illustrations and a lot of good insight into the world of pediatric IBD. So I guess I just wanted to start by asking Adam how the project came to be. What was the inspiration, if you will, for it, and yeah, how you put it all together.
That's a great question. Well, first of all, some background on me. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 2 years old, and I had my colon removed when I was 12, and I'm now 25 years old. Now I'm a rising fourth year medical student. And I wrote the book at the beginning of college is when I wrote it. And then throughout college and right before medical school started is when I illustrated it. And my motivation for the book was when I was a patient around the time of surgery, there was a handbook that I received from the nurses, and it was on a guidebook to what surgery would be like. And on some of the pages in the book, there were maybe one sentence little descriptions that kids wrote who had the surgery saying, I had this surgery last year and now I'm playing soccer. And there was a little picture of them. And I thought it was really neat to see their story, just a snapshot of it. And I wanted to expand on that and provide a bigger resource for other kids because it was great to see what other kids were doing and that I could relate to them. And I wanted to create a resource that other kids could relate to.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, well, I will. I read the book. I will ask you some questions about it. Also, the book is available on Barnes and Noble, so go buy it. Or I guess. Yeah, so I read the book, and the overwhelming uh, thought that I had was it's all just so positive, and everything is there's this overwhelming positivity that just permeates throughout the whole book. And it's interesting because a lot of the subjects are, if you really think about it, like dark subjects and uh, subjects that a child shouldn't have to really think about. Um, so I guess I just wanted to ask, like, how do you stay such a positive outlook after all that happened? And like, you know, I also want to ask kind of where you get that from, that positivity that you have.
That's a great question, too. I think, can you hear me? I took the headphones out. Is it okay?
Yeah, I can hear
Oh,
you.
great. When I was younger, I was diagnosed so young that I didn't realize I was any different than other kids. And so I don't think I knew that I was facing more challenges than other kids. Just it was something I was used to. Or at one point, I even asked one of my friends why I didn't see him at the nurse's office to take his medicine because I just expected him to take it. And then as I got older and realized that these were significant challenges I was facing and I was facing them well, I became really proud of how I had faced them in the past and knew that with any challenge in the future, I would be able to face it just because I kind of knew my track record and knew that I had a good attitude about it. And then as I got older and still had some symptoms, I could kind of think about it clearly. Now I think about there's two different options. There's stuff that you can do stuff about and stuff you can't do stuff about. And for the stuff that you can do stuff about, you just got to do your hardest to get the best outcome, whether it's making sure to take your medicine on time or to reach out to someone if you have a question or need help. And there's other things that you have no control over, like going to the bathroom a lot or stomach pains. And for there, you can't control it, but you just have to realize that it's happening. And maybe there's a distraction that you can use to get over it or get through it, or something
Yeah,
to think about.
yeah, yeah. I one of the pages is you going to the bathroom, and on the other side of the door is your dad talking to you while you're there, and it's interesting uh, being in pain or being uncomfortable. Um, you have to distract yourself with something. It's just like what you have to do. Myself, I mean, I've had Crohn's since I was two, which is interesting. You say that you thought you were like everyone else because even though I was diagnosed at two, I guess it was made clear to me early that I was not like everyone else, and I had Crohn's, and the other people didn't have Crohn's. So that was always my mindset. So I never really had like a moment where I was like, oh, other people don't go through this. I was just sort of always like that, which is different from your perspective, which I thought was interesting. But um, I did want to talk about like friends at school. Something that I used to struggle with a lot is, it's a big question. Is how do you talk to your friends about your illness? Especially at such a young age, where the kids won't understand 99% of the things that you could tell them, or they'll take it the wrong way, or they'll joke about, like, there's a million things, obviously. So how did you, I guess, navigate that?
Well, actually, the first time I told most of my friends, even classmates, about it was in seventh grade biology class. And this was right after my surgeries. I had them in sixth and the beginning of seventh grade. And we were on the GI unit. And when we were talking about the colon, that's when I said, oh, I had this condition that affected my colon. So I kind of know about it. And so I talked about
Nice.
that for a little bit. And leading up to that, I didn't talk about it too much because I didn't think that the other kids would understand too much. And it wasn't that I was embarrassed about the disease at all, but it was more so I didn't think they'd get it. And so I waited. And then in regard to my parents, whether they told people or not, they wanted to wait until I was old enough to make the decision if I wanted people to know or not. So they didn't tell anyone, even close friends, family friends didn't know about it until I was old enough. And I said I didn't really mind if people knew about it. And so then they would know if it came up.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. I went through something similar where you maybe tell one or two of your closest friends, at least for me, who are actually curious and actually want to know what's going on. It's super helpful to have a friend like that you can talk to. This is when I was in high school, so it's obviously different than when you're younger, where you can't really expect your friend who's also a kid to help you in any meaningful way with this disease that he knows nothing about. But
Right.
as yeah,
And then also about that, where I guess sometimes it's not your choice to tell people or not. Because I remember for one of the flare ups, I was out for 2 weeks. And then I said
yeah,
to one of my friends I was sick. And he said, oh, you're sick for 2 weeks? And so I said, oh, yeah, it was like a bad sickness, but then I'm better now, and left it at that. That was in, I think, early sixth grade. So people definitely will notice, but then you might be forced to say more than you want. But you can always just say what you're comfortable with.
yeah. I wanted to ask about distractions, because as someone myself, I deal with chronic pain, and I've obviously had a lot of different symptoms over the years, from Crohn's, and I've been through several different pain programs, and it's basically it all comes down to distracting your mind. Um, I mean, there's a million things, but basically the whole thing is distractions, right? So I guess how did you manage? Did you manage to distract yourself in those situations enough? I know there's the one page where you're talking to your dad on the other side of the wall, but like, you know, were there? Did you have days where you were feeling bad and then maybe you got distracted or went and did something and then felt better, or just try to distract yourself with something and then realize that it wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
Yeah, I think talking to people would help as a good distraction, whether it's about how you're feeling or just anything else in general to get your mind off of it. And sometimes there'd be distractions even from events. Like if I had a baseball game and I couldn't go to it because I didn't know if there'd be a bathroom nearby,
Yeah.
uh, my dad and I could play catch in the driveway instead if I had any issues. And so that would kind of take my mind off of not being able to go to the game, because then I wasn't sitting there thinking about it. I would be doing something else I enjoyed. But about that page in the bathroom, I pulled it up where we would, um, I'd be one of the, I guess, tough things about IBDs. You're on the toilet so often and you're in a lot of pain and you're stuck. And so we would tell stories, and I had a superhero Adam Ant that I made up that we would tell stories with whenever I'd be on the toilet. And that helped a bit. And then it was during some unit at school when I was in maybe third grade, sometime in elementary school, where we were multiplying numbers bigger than 10 and adding them. And my dad said, oh, this would be a great opportunity where we can practice math while you're on the toilet. And I went for it. And so I learned how to do that type of math when I was just sitting on the toilet, and he helped me through the door where he would give me problems. And that was a great distraction, and it was productive because we got to learn something.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's really, in those moments, it's very important to, just activate your brain in some way and bring attention somewhere else outside of what's going on here. And that seemed like a great way to do it for you. I wanted to touch on the art style of the book. So, how long have you been drawing? I guess I'll
The
ask.
drawing took a while, and writing the book was not difficult because it was about a lot of experiences that I experienced many times, and I think a lot of the events were relatable to other people.
Mhm.
And so I thought these in particular could help. And then between that and the drawing, I have no background in drawing at all. And so I
Really?
wanted to try, yeah, and so I wanted to try to find someone else at first. I didn't really know who to ask, and asked a couple of people that I knew were online, and didn't expect them to even get back with me. And but they did, and they would say, oh, we don't have the time, which makes sense. And I really wanted to see it through. And so I drew it. And the only style that I really can draw in is probably the level of an elementary schooler. But that worked with the book because I wanted it to be really relatable for that age group, elementary schoolers to early middle schoolers. And so I did it in, I don't know if you can see, but it's a kind of crayon style where I
Yeah.
kind of pictures. Um, and
It
so, I tried to make it kind of colorful and have lots of pictures. And that's me at the doctor, for example, and me at the waiting room.
it
Um,
it 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 it, it does work remarkably well for the book, just because I mean, clearly it's a book intended for kids and intended for maybe parents of kids with IBD. And this kind of thing just seems like, I mean, it seems like it couldn't fit any better, to be honest here. And you did a really good job with it. It's not like, I mean, I actually would have guessed that you would have been drawing for longer than just this, because it's not bad, I must say. I don't think
Thank you.
you'll be able to pull this off, but it's great, and it works really well in informing, because I think a lot of the book seems to be, helping kids through these difficult scenarios and what to do. And there's a lot of very relatable scenarios in it, that I think a lot of kids with Crohn's will relate to, and there's a lot of good ideas in it that they can take from the book. Um, so I appreciate that about it. Um, let's see, what else? Do you have a favorite page of the book, or was that do we do that already with the?
Yeah, I like that one. I like
Yeah.
actually, yeah, let's see. There's one at the beginning. Let's see. I like this one where it's of me getting my blood drawn, and then I'm kind of thinking of me in kind of a power positive pose at the top.
Ah.
And getting the blood drawn was important for me because I think that was the most symbolic thing that I realized, oh, I can do this. And it might be a challenge for other people my age, where my mom would say that I would get in the chair and kind of stick my arm out and have no problem with it. And I didn't even know that was different until I was maybe in middle school or end of elementary school. And so that's how I really became proud of dealing with UC, was by getting the blood draws. And so that page kind of sticks out for me.
Being able to control some aspects of our diseases is obviously very important, and how we think about it, and how we have our how it affects us, our symptoms. Um, and then I wanted to. I'm not sure if it was in the book, but you mentioned sleep. I know you get up, and this is a problem for me too, getting up a lot in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Do you have any advice about that?
I would say, I think the biggest thing with getting up is the frustration where you just want to go back to bed and you keep going to the bathroom or having to stay in the bathroom. And for that, what I was talking about earlier, where you can either make the best of something or do your best, that's something where you really can't do your best for. You have to make the best of it, which is really hard because there's nothing really good that can come of it.
Hmm.
But just knowing that maybe during the day you won't be going to school, so you can sleep in or getting rest other ways that you can. I think it's just kind of realizing how frustrating it is and knowing that this time next week you'll be better, or this time in however period of time you'll be better, and just thinking about that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Um, okay. And then also at the end of the book, there's some questions that you lay out for people to think about. I found one particularly um, interesting. It was, what are some ways that you can make going to the doctor a better experience? Because it's interesting because throughout, when you talk about the doctor in the book, when you talk about going to the doctor, you talk about how it's a positive feeling. It's a feeling of I'm going to fix something or I'm going to get better. That's the reason I'm going. Um, and so you sort of, from your perspective, turn it into a positive thing, something that would normally not be a positive thing. Like for me, going for anyone going to any doctor, it's just negative. You don't want to do that. Just push it away or whatever, anxiety, whatever. Um, so I guess I was wondering how you managed to turn even something like a doctor's office into something positive and within your positive attitude, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, I definitely have to thank my parents for that. They were the ones that took me to the doctor, and they made sure to have a lot of positive associations with the doctor. For example, on the ride there and back, I'd be listening to my favorite radio station that they would put on. And then after every appointment, we'd stop at the bakery, and I'd always get the same thing, a cookie and an iced tea. Or when I got older, the iced tea. And I was like a cookie and that. And then I would look forward to that. And the doctor himself would give out little toys, kind of like Happy Meal type toys, but still, I really like to play with them after the appointments. And sometimes
Yeah.
I had a joke that I'm interested in a career in medicine just because of this bakery, because it made my experience at the hospital a lot better. Kind of made a positive
Yeah.
association with going to the doctor.
Yeah. I had I when I did Remicade, I was on Remicade for a while, but when I did infusions, I must have been 7 or 8 at the time. I would go and do the infusion, and then my parents would always take me to this restaurant, Pat's, which at the time was my favorite restaurant, and I would always be really excited about that. And yeah, basically, just I think incentivizing these things for children, uh, not just to get them to do the infusions, but yeah, to have a better outlook about it, have a better mindset about it. It's not all just terrible because you're sick. It's look, you can, we're gonna get through this, and then we can do good things. Um, so yeah, that was interesting. Well, I guess we will start to wrap it up then. The book is called Up and Atom: A Patient's Experience on Winning with IBD. You can find it on Apple Music and Spotify and no, none of those places. It's at Barnes and Noble. So buy it from Barnes and Noble. It's good. It's great. It's possibly the greatest thing to come out of America in the last 20 years. We'll see. See how it does. But Adam, thank you so much. This was awesome. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Great. Thank you for having me, Will.
Yeah, it was very cool. All right, and thank you everyone who's watching. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. All right, bye.
Okay.